top, but I don't have the lava show.
Right, we'll get started. I eventually decided that working with small children every day was just far too dangerous, so came here to play with molten lava instead. Much safer. And actually, the real reason I came to Iceland was that I met and eventually married a lovely Icelandic girl. Yeah, I deserve an applause for that one as well. And actually, there's very good historical reasons for what I've done. Because it turns out that many of the original settlers of Iceland actually came from the Outer Hebrides. This is because of the way the Vikings kind of hopscotched their way over here. So they left Norway, and came down to the north of Scotland, and from there out to here. And it turns out that 63% of Icelandic women's DNA actually comes from the UK and Ireland. So basically the way I see it is the Vikings were stealing our women and I just came to get one back. But I did fall in love with Iceland very quickly as well. It's not difficult to do, let's face it, this place is absolutely amazing. Especially if you're into geography in any way at all, and I am. My dad was a geography teacher in a high school, and he taught me very well. Every family holiday he was pointing out features in the landscape. And I went on then to study geography at Glasgow University, which I did for a couple of years, up to the point where it stopped being about fun things like volcanoes and started being more about statistics and numbers and stuff. Not my thing, so that's when I sidestepped into teaching. But all this physical geography stuff is pretty much my first love, so hopefully I can share my enthusiasm for the subject with you all today. Anyway, enough about me. What about this show? Whose bright idea was this? To get a bunch of people like yourselves into a showroom and pour lava in amongst you. It's a slightly crazy idea. This slightly crazy idea came from our two founders, Julius and Raka, who are a married Icelandic couple. And they were really inspired to create this show as a direct result of something very significant that happened here back in 2010, which was, of course, the eruption of, altogether? That one, yeah. Yes, we're talking about Eyjafjallajökull, a very famous eruption. Famous really for a couple of reasons. Reason number one was the ash cloud that ended up shutting down all air travel in Europe for about a week. Do you all remember this? Yeah? Any of you directly affected by it? Were any of you stuck? Oh, yes, did you get stuck somewhere nice?
I was going to go to Edinburgh.
Oh well, not quite so, not massive disruption. There was a couple of folks in here the other day who was stuck in Spain for an extra week's holiday. Hard life. The one place that was largely unaffected by all the disruption though was Iceland, because although the ash cloud originated here, all the ash kind of swept off around the rest of Europe with the wind. So all the Icelanders were like, oh, your holiday got cancelled. Sucks to be you, and flew off to Florida in the opposite direction. The other thing that made that eruption so famous was, of course, the name. Because let's face it, if you don't speak Icelandic, Eyjafjallajökull is a bit of a tongue twister, to say the least. However, you seem like a willing bunch today, and I am a teacher after all. Would you up for learning how to say this together? Yeah? Gonna give it a go? Alright, so don't be intimidated. All these ridiculously long Icelandic place names are actually just very descriptive, and when you break them into chunks it makes it a whole lot easier. This one's only in 3 chunks, so should be easy enough. Chunk number 1 is Eyja.
Eyja.
There we go. Eyja means island. Second part is Fjalla.
Fjalla.
And Fjalla means mountain. And the third part, Jökull. Yeah, the confidence level dropping off a little bit there. If you are struggling with that sound on the end there, that sound, lift your tongue up to the roof of your mouth, blow air out through your cheeks, and spray everybody around you with spit. You laugh, but it actually does work. Try it again. Jökull. There we go. That's much better that time. So that means glacier. When you put it all together, it's island mountain of the glacier, you see? So repeat after me. Eyja. Fjalla. Jökull. And on 3, the whole thing together. 1, 2, 3. Eyjafjallajökull. Ta-da! There we go. Give yourselves a round of applause for that. Yeah, I think it was pretty decent. We've got some Icelandic people in here today, don't we? Where are the Icelandic people? Yeah, over here. So, what would you give them for that? The Eurovision points out of 12. What do you reckon? A solid 10. Yeah? Okay, it's basically what you would give like Denmark. That's not too bad. It was definitely a lot better than the TV news people managed, that's for sure. They absolutely butchered this. So most of them just gave up trying and called it E15 instead. E for the first letter, and 15 for all the rest. But although we all heard about the ash cloud part of this eruption, the volcanic system that it belongs to had actually begun erupting a month before this. So in between Eyjafjallajökull and Mýrdalsjökull, there's a ridge there called Fimmvörðuháls, and there the lava was flowing off the mountainside in the highest recorded lava fall anywhere on the planet. A 200-meter high lava fall, if you can picture that, over 600 feet. To help you picture, any of you been to Skogafoss, the big waterfall on the south coast? Yeah, some of you have been there. So if you can imagine 3.5 Skogafosses stacked on top of one another, and then swap the water for lava. Yeah, wow. Or to put it another way, the big church on the hill, Hallgrímskirkja, it's like 3 of them. So that was the height the lava was pouring down the mountainside. Incredible sight. So, Julius and Raka, being Icelandic people, are a little bit strange in that anytime eruptions are happening, instead of running away from them like normal people, Icelandic people run directly towards them. Yeah, and usually bring sausages. Yes, there's no denial going on here. So Julius and Raka were standing watching this amazing sight and just saying to themselves, everyone should have a chance to see lava flow like this. Unfortunately, it's not that easy to achieve, even here, although we do have a lot of volcanic activity. I mean, we're seeing that right now. But actually, we only get eruptions here every 3 to 5 years on average. And when they do happen, often it's miles off in the highlands under a glacier somewhere. So we're completely inaccessible. And even if you could get there, it might not necessarily be safe to go there. So what Julius and Raka wanted was to find a safe, repeatable way for people to experience lava. And this is what they dreamt up. So they opened the first lava show in Vik in 2018, and we opened here in Reykjavik a year ago on Friday, actually. So we just celebrated our first anniversary. Woo! So what do we actually have for you today? First thing is a beautiful video presentation up on the big screen there. Stunning visuals, but also packed with information about why Iceland is such a volcanic place. And it goes on to talk about some of the most significant eruptions we've had here since the settlement by the Vikings back in the 800s. Taking us right up to the present day, because the last one mentioned in the video is the one that was most recently erupting out at Fagradalsfjall, which first kicked off in 2021, and then again the year after that, and then again this year. And of course now we're seeing an awful lot of activity going on here on the Reykjavik Peninsula, and I'm sure we'll be talking about that later on as well. So, after the video, we pour the lava. The lava's going to come down this slide here at a whopping 1100 degrees Celsius, 2000 Fahrenheit. So it's going to get pretty warm in here, especially here in the front rows or up on the balcony there. You're really going to feel the heat. So some of you might want to consider taking off a layer or two. Some of you please don't, you'll be absolutely fine the way you are. Keep it modest. The lava flow that we have is what's called pahoihoi. Pahoihoi lava flow is the very smooth, runny kind of lava that you see in all the pretty pictures. It's very bright in colour, very fluid. There's another type called a'a, which is much more viscous. It doesn't so much flow along as it kind of crawls, and as it crawls, sharp bits kind of snap and break and stick out of it, which is partly why it's called a'a, because the Hawaiians would walk on it and go, ah. There you go. Okay, technically it does mean rough or difficult to walk on. It's going to flow over this ice block here, and this is really just to show you the interaction between ice and lava that we get so often in nature here. In this situation here, it's going to be a bit more subdued. We should get nice steam bubbles pushing up through that lava as it flows over there. But in nature, that's going to be a lot more dramatic. What will happen there is that under pressure, that steam gets pushed into the lava and blasts the lava apart. And that lava gets shattered into tiny, tiny fragments, the tiniest of which just go straight up in the air as volcanic ash. That's what caused the problem with the flights in 2010. The heavier sediment, which is called tephra, falls back down to the ground, and all this melted ice creates huge glacial floods, and that takes a lot of the tephra away down to the coastline. This is tephra. You've probably seen large amounts of it already in your time here. It is commonly referred to as black sand, but actually it's just basalt, the same as these columns here. There's no chemical difference between this and this at all. In fact, the only difference is the way it was formed. These would have formed in a deep pool of lava over a long period of time, and I can explain that to you more later on if you're curious. Whereas what I'm holding in my hand here got blasted out of the crater of a volcano. And actually from a specific one. We have a special connection as a company here with one volcano, which is Katla. And the material that I'm holding here, we collect from Mýrdalssandur down near Vik, and we take it from there because we know it came right out of the crater of Katla when it last erupted in 1918. And so this is what we are remelting in our furnace for you 105 years later, which I think is pretty cool. Okay, a couple of safety notes before we go on. Those of you downstairs, you will have found safety glasses on your seats when you came in. You don't need these just yet. The video is not that dangerous. But after the video, I'll remind you to put them on, and we'd like you to keep those glasses on until you actually leave the showroom at the end. When the back doors there are open, you all head out there. There'll be little baskets on the steps, and if you put the glasses in there, we can wash them and use them again. The reason you need those glasses is because as the lava is coming in here and cooling down, it's going to start to contract, it'll shrink. And when it does that, it will crack, and when it cracks, sometimes little splinters can fly off onto the floor here beside me. Usually it doesn't bother anybody at all, but just to be extra cautious when it comes to our eyes, we don't want to take any chances. Also, I'm going to be jabbing at the lava with a big metal pole, so same thing applies. What else do I need to tell you? Oh yes, don't touch the lava. I shouldn't have to say that, and yet, here we are. Because I've been doing this for long enough, I know what people are like, and I have literally had a situation where a guy who was sitting right in the front row where you are, so I'm watching you, he got up out of his seat, was making his way to the door there, saw a chunk here that he quite liked the look of, and I saw the hand going out to pick it up, and I had to physically pull him back, because the piece he was about to pick up was between 400 and 500 degrees Celsius at the time. Yeah, so in case you're curious as to what happens if you try that, nothing good. So please don't touch the lava, but by all means take photos and videos, that's absolutely fine. The one thing we would say about photography though is if you would please switch the flash on your cameras off, that would be fantastic. Firstly, you don't need it, the lava is bright enough, you'll get better photographs without it, but also the room is going to be dark at that point, so if you're sitting in a dark room, someone's shining bright light in your eyes, it's quite uncomfortable. So for the sake of those around you, if you would switch off your flash, that would be great. Also, please ask questions as the thing goes on, as the show goes on. I'll open it up to questions at various points. So anything you want to know, ask away, and I'll do my best to give you an answer. Bearing in mind, I am a teacher, so if I reach the limit of my knowledge, I'll do what all teachers do. I will make it up, but I will say it very convincingly. Anyway, shouldn't come to that. Very last thing is to meet this guy. A round of applause, please, for our lava melter. So this fine gentleman is Nathan, and Nathan is our lava melter today, which is why he's wearing this rather daft-looking suit. You might think this is just being done for the cameras here just now, but actually no, he really does have to wear that suit, because he's operating the furnace, which is running about 1300 degrees Celsius right now, and he's going to be pouring the lava very shortly, and after he's done that, his next task is actually to top up the furnace with hardened lava from the previous show, which he has to shovel in there, and he stands directly in front of the open furnace. So as you can imagine, the blast of heat that comes from that is tremendous. That's why he's also got this visor on here. That's actually a very thin layer of gold on that visor. Very thin layer, so don't go mugging him later. But gold is a really good reflector of heat and light. That's why astronauts have it on their space helmets. And that's why he's got it on his. It just allows him to be able to see what he's doing and also to be able to peer into that furnace and see what's going on in there. Speaking of which, what is going on in there? Lava ready? Excellent. Good man. Thank you, Nathan. You can go back to your cave now. Bye-bye. And while he's doing that, we will now watch that video and then we'll pour the lava.
Lava show. Iceland is one of the most active volcanic places on Earth, with a significant eruption every 3 to 5 years on average. There are more active volcanoes concentrated in Iceland than anywhere else on the planet. Iceland has 30 active volcano systems, of which 19 have erupted since the settlement of Iceland over 1,000 years ago.
So there's the bubbling reaction there as it hits the ice. And you can see how fluid this lava is. And when it's called Pele's hairs. So these are Pele's hairs. They're super thin strands of lava. They cool very quickly in the air, forming these lovely glassy threads. And geologists absolutely love finding these. They are quite hard to come by in nature because these glassy fibers, they're very fragile and they tend to get broken apart very easily by the wind, get blown away. So that's why the geologists love them. But farmers here in Iceland, not quite so keen on them because these glassy fibers get into the grass that the animals eat. And that messes up their stomachs. Which is why in Icelandic they have a different name. They're called nornahár. That means witches' hairs. Oh, and look, we've got a little Pelly's tear forming there on the top there. Can you see that? We actually have some jewellery made of that in the gift store. It's a little plug. Dance, lava monkey, dance. So, toss that on there. And right away you can see what's happening. So some of the steam is escaping up the way, but some is being pushed into the lava. It's causing the lava to inflate. Wow. You're getting these lovely bubbles forming. The surface of the lava is beginning to cool, and the steam is finding it harder to escape. It's getting trapped in there, creating these big bubbles. You can actually see here, if I tap the surface, you can see that that is already forming a nice truss on the top. There's a genuine lava lamp for you there, folks. I told you I was a primary school teacher, didn't I? The jokes are not going to get any better, I'm afraid. So just we can get some lava to actually flow out of that. You can get lava tunnels forming in there, so I'll come back and check on that in a little bit. Now you can hear all the shoveling noises backstage. And that is actually Nathan filling up the furnace with lava from the previous show. And you can see on the surface of the lava here, where that's formed these lovely ripples. And those ripples, they're called ropey texture, or ropey pahoihoi. And you get that anywhere in nature where there's been a flow of lava, there's a very fluid stream of lava. And the surface, just like you would imagine, it cools faster on the top. And the more fluid lava underneath drags the surface along behind it. And when the surface fully cools, it locks those ripples in place. So you get to see the direction that the lava was flowing in. You see this in many places around the country. One very good example is at Thingvellir National Park. There's a lookout point there over the park. If you're standing there, there's bare rock beside you. And if you look on that bare rock, you can see these lovely big ropey strands of lava. It's a ropey texture, or ropey pahoihoi. Now I'm just going to bring up the lights a little tiny bit here, so I can see what I'm doing a bit better. And at this point we always clip some safety guards onto the top part of the slide. So I'm just going to, oops, for that very reason, clip this on here, like so. Because this upper part here, it is under a little bit more pressure, it tends to pop and crack a bit more. So it's just to keep everybody comfortable. So you're likely to hear some fairly sharp cracks and bangs coming from up here. That is a completely normal part of proceedings. We expect to hear that. You get that anywhere where lava is cooling down in nature, you're going to get cracking and popping of the lava. And you get it here as well. You also, anywhere where lava is flowing, like when it's coming out of the crater of a volcano, you can actually, when you listen to that, it actually sounds like waves breaking on the seashore. So yeah. Right, I'm going to grab my heat gun here and have a quick sip of water, if you'll excuse me. So let's have a little look what's going on down here temperature-wise. So the surface here, where I had the ice block, that's giving me a surface reading there of 563 Celsius. That's 1,045 Fahrenheit. But that is just on the surface. If I actually get through the surface into the material underneath that, so I'll just crack some of this away. And I don't have to go very far down. I'll just do that. So there it's 657 Celsius, 1,214 Fahrenheit. So, yeah, it's around about the same. It's around high 600s. In fact, you can see I can actually still get a pull into it. I can still get molten lava out of that, even though it was significantly cooler on the surface. And we saw it, well, we see quite regularly. In fact, you'll see it yourself if you go out to Fagradalsfjord right now. You'll see people going out walking on that lava field. It's been cooling down since July. But it's actually really not a good idea because, just like here, although it has cooled on the surface, the lava underneath that is still very hot indeed. In many cases, still molten. So if you were to dislodge a big chunk of it on the surface, you might actually get some fluid lava still able to flow out beside you, which would be bad news. In addition to that, you're running the risk of running into lava tunnels. They found lava tunnels in the 2021 lava field. And scientists earlier this year, they were going out exploring these lava tunnels, and they were going just underneath the surface. In some cases, they could actually see daylight through the cracks in the ceiling above. But inside the tunnels, they were experiencing temperatures between 100 and 400 degrees Celsius. And that's in 2.5-year-old lava, right? So you could be walking along at the top of that thinking, oh, it's from 2021, we're safe enough here. And actually go cracking through some of that thinner crust and fall into the tunnel below. And yeah, fair enough, you're not falling into a pool of molten lava necessarily, but it's still far too hot for you to be there. And you can imagine if somebody cranked up the temperature of the room you're in by 300 or 400 degrees, it wouldn't go well for you. So yeah, we would definitely recommend staying off of it for the meantime. Listen to what the authorities are saying. You've got to remember you're in Iceland. The floor really is lava, literally. Now, if I were to try to break into this just now, I would have very little success. You hear that dull thudding noise? That's telling me that the material underneath the pole here is still very molten. In fact, look at that, still sinking into it. So I'm not going to be able to crack this anytime soon, so I'm going to have to leave this for a while. Instead, I'll come over here and have a look at what's going on here. Up here, crack into this. Just come and grab it. No, please don't. But you can see already, just in the few seconds that that's been out, you can see that the colour has dimmed down quite significantly. And actually, the colour of the lava is going to give you a pretty good indicator of its temperature. So anywhere where the lava is over 600 degrees Celsius, it's still going to have that red glow. But once it dips down below the 600 mark, that's when it basically turns entirely black. And that kind of meteor effect that I was joking about, that is how you'll get lava tunnels forming. So a lava tunnel will form anywhere in nature where you have a stream of lava, just like we have here. It's going to cool fastest on the outside where it's in contact with the air, and that'll happen at a rate usually of about 100 degrees Celsius being lost every kilometre that it travels. But once it actually cools to form that insulating crust on the outside, the lava inside will then only lose 1 degree per kilometre it travels. So it can actually travel really long distances inside its own insulation. Basically, as long as there's a supply of lava to draw from, and gravity keeps on acting on that fluid lava, it can keep on flowing in there happily like water flowing in a pipe. Until such time as the supply gets entirely used up, the gravity then pulls all the remaining fluid lava clean out of that tube, and you're left in with a hollow tunnel. So that's how you get these lava tunnels. There's quite a few of them around the country that you can visit. There's a very good one down just about 40 minutes outside of the city here. And I would highly recommend going to see one of these if you get a chance. They're super interesting places. You're literally getting to walk where lava was flowing at one point in time. And you can see on the walls around you where that lava, at least the iron in the lava is oxidized. And you get lovely colors like reds and browns, yellows and greens in there sometimes as well. Really pretty. Definitely worth a visit if you get a chance. You can see that material is clean off the slide here as well. So the slide is actually made of steel. And because the lava, as it hits that slide, it's causing the steel to expand. The lava itself is cooling and contracting, and the two pull away from each other, so it just slides clean off. Right, I'm going to bring up the lights a little bit more now. There we are. And this will be a pretty good chance for you to ask any questions that you might have at this stage. So if there's anything you'd like to know,